Scotty and Motty, which means that is Scotty. It is new year, new me and all that, innit? As they say.
New me.
New me. There we go. And that's the enthusiasm we're going to embrace 2024 with. New me, new
I don't understand why people think I'm pessimistic.
We've also got producer Alexei with us. How are you, Alexei?
Happy New Year, everyone.
All right, calm down.
Very enthusiastic for...
That's why they call him the party producer.
The party
year
producer. Get involved in the comments in the chat. We're obviously live. We're going to talk about Erik tonight. We're going to talk about Sir Jim Ratcliffe visiting Old Trafford today as well. And Dave Brailsford apparently has been in Carrington the last couple of days, meeting everyone, so there could be changes afoot. But first of all, we've had a little bit of breaking news, my friend.
Oh, yeah, we like that.
Yeah, a bit of breaking news. Florian Plettenberg, who we know from Stretford Paddock, he's been on the channel, very, very reliable source for what goes on in Germany. I think he works for Sky Germany now. He used to work for Sport 1. He's done a tweet saying, exclusive news on Jadon Sancho. This was 20-odd minutes ago. Man United and Borussia Dortmund are actively working on a loan, as confirmed to me from England. Talks about 6 month loan ongoing. Sancho has to leave Man United in winter. The 23-year-old is eager to return to Dortmund. All parties involved are now working on a solution. Now it primarily depends on Manchester United for the transfer to succeed. United must be open to a loan. I mean, Scotty, I'll get your thoughts on that. To me, it seems like a bit of a no-brainer, but what do you reckon?
I don't think there were going to be too many clubs that are going to spend the money that we want for him in January. It makes sense for the player as well to sort of keep him active. Also, in my mind, it could, if we get a new manager in the summer, Sancho could have a way back into Old Trafford. I know he's hardly covered himself in any glory at all, on or off the pitch, and I'm not sort of defending that. But if we are going to get a new manager in the summer, as is increasingly obvious to me at least, which we'll get in a minute, then it could, be good in the longer term for Manchester United. He's a player of calibre, and he's proved that at Dortmund.
I kind of agree a bit. I think this is the best way of getting more money for him. I think he's done, to be honest with you. And I think even if I get your point about a new manager, and there's every chance in the summer that the manager could change, which we'll get into, I just feel that even from a club perspective, it might be like, do you know what? He's never really done it. He didn't do it under Ole. I know he didn't have like loads of time. Didn't do it under Rangnick. Didn't do it under Ten Hag. Had obviously issues, and then the fallout with the manager. It's just been pretty horrific. And even if you get a new manager, you might just think, well, is this ever going to work out with him at Manchester United? Is there any indication where you go? If he'd have been flying till Ten Hag came in, you go, it's obviously just Ten Hag's problem. But he's never done it, for me, he's never done it consistently in a Manchester United shirt. Even to the point where Ten Hag, I thought, tried a few different things. Go away for 3 months to train in Holland. Let's get you right, whatever the reasons are. Comes back, has a couple of decent games, then tails off again. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just don't see the player there that we saw at Dortmund. And I think if he goes to Dortmund and smashes it again, there might even be that thing in your mind, well, we've seen him do that before. He smashed it, was it 36 goal involvements in 39 games in his final season in Germany? And he could come back and, like, flatter to deceive again. So I think this might be a good way of United, if he does smash it, going, look, you can have him for, even if it's like 45 million or something, for a 23-year-old he is amazingly talented. He is one of the most talented youngsters I've ever seen. Just not quite, for me, what you need at United. No, but
I think his ability is what we need at United.
Yeah, if we can not ability. No, I'm not talking about.
But that sort of attitude and stuff. I mean, we've had divas in the Manchester United dressing room before, haven't we? We can look back to the likes of Pogba, Jesse Lingard and stuff, where the profile, you can sort of see the stuff that Jadon Sancho's been getting up to whilst he's not been on the pitch at Old Trafford and sort of enjoying his life outside of it. So he's very much a sort of that type of player. But I think his ability is he's a brilliant footballer, and we could do with that sort of talent on the pitch. What's the situation if he goes to Dortmund and, like I said, does start performing amazing again? Then you think, we brought Anthony Martial back after doing nothing in Seville.
We did. I think that was more like
no one else
than having. Yeah,
and yet we still playing.
And his loan move to Sevilla was a disaster. It couldn't have gone any worse, to be honest with you, with Anthony Martial. And he pulled out all the stops. I think he scored 1 goal. I think it was in the Europa League. They were in a title race when he got there, Sevilla. I think it was after his first game. I think Lopetegui, was the manager, called him out. He said those performances won't be accepted while he's here. You think, Jesus.
I loved it. But do you remember Seville's sort of social media when
they went turbo? I think they honestly thought they'd sign Lionel Messi. the way they were carrying on.
I thought our fan base were bad for Martial FC.
They put that Martial FC in the shade, didn't they? That was like Anthony Martial himself had been given access to the Sevilla account, and it was so OTT. It was like there were all these like graphics he was doing and videos and everything. And I thought, okay, this is. Do you know what? I get this. Like, let's big him up before he gets here. Let's see, if we can get him motivated, get him playing at the top of his game. I thought he could have tore it up in the La Liga, but he didn't. He didn't get going, and he was pretty shocking. And obviously he came back, and now he's still in the United squad when he's not ill, because we haven't got any other strikers other than obviously Rasmus Højlund. Yeah, with Sancho, I think this is a view to a move. Listen, I'll say it with everyone. I'm happy to be proven wrong. I'm happy for a player to be proven wrong, but I do feel that the whole Sancho saga has gone. It's gone too far, basically. Yeah. And I feel like, you know what? You mentioned there other players that have had issues, and I get that, but this one is pretty horrendous, isn't it, in terms of what we're seeing.
No one's ever actually gone public, really.
No.
It's always gone through reporters or sort of third parties with leaks.
Did it a little bit, didn't he?
Pogba when he's in Japan, was it?
Yeah, and he said there was that time when he questioned Mourinho's tactics after a Wolves game and was stripped of the vice captaincy, which was just a nonsense because he had it for about 2 weeks. And then there was another thing where he said, if I speak, I'll get fined, or whatever it was, about Jose. But not like this, where it's like basically doing a Twitter post. And I just think, I get the idea of defending yourself. I just thought it was a little bit OTT. We've had a super chat from Chic Game. Happy New Year, lads. Love the show. Is the Agony Uncle show coming back anytime soon? Yes, it is. It'll be back next week. So we'll have this live will be next Monday, and the Agony Uncles will be out on Thursday.
Yeah,
I think is the plan, because we've just been here, there, and everywhere with kids.
Get involved as well, man. If you want to send in any sort of agony questions.
What's the email address?
It's scottyandmotty@gmail.com.
scottyandmotty@gmail.com, right? You should be able to remember that one. Loads of people in the chat as well. Mick Holohan says, woof, woof, mother truckers, and all you people in the chat. Paul Gill says, Happy New Year, gents. Heaven Soul, evening, lads. Santa Nut says, it's the double Otti show. Nice. Chris Power says, he'll get the rest of the year, but he has to go. We're talking about Erik ten Hag, which I'm going to get into in a minute. To stay, he'd have to go and beat him for the rest of the season, or at least close. He's just not up to it. Michael Gilbrank says, Happy New Year, my pedigree chums. Sell the lot. Leon Horton says, Happy New Year. Greg G says, evening, lads. Happy new optimistic year. John Powney says, evening, gents. Erik ten Hag in. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink it. Colin Rocket says, Jay pretending he ain't ITK. Jay always knows the sus, my man. Trust me. I don't even know what day is, literally, let alone what's going on at Manchester United. But I always make a point of saying, I am not ITK. You know, some people pretend to be ITK. Yeah. And they'll do them tweets like, make of it what you will, but I've just heard from someone who has been right in the past that, I don't know, Choupo-Moting has been spotted in Sale looking at gaffs or whatever, and you're like, what? Don't shoot the messenger. They're always like,
it's not,
Or United are in for a striker, not sure who, but I've heard the interest is real. You think, you don't know anything, you're just making that up. No. Whereas I really did see Sir Jim Ratcliffe at Eccles at Morrison's, that is true, getting money out of the cash machine, and now look where we are. He's bought 25% of the club. Who was telling the truth?
I'm not gonna dig him out on live on the show, but there was someone who's gone on to do pretty well for himself in punditry. He was a bit of an ITK back in the day, and we had a bit of a ding dong back in the past because he said Guardiola's definitely getting the Manchester United job after Sir Alex Ferguson. I've just been in a bar in New York, and I've somebody's told me, and they can be really, and honestly, I'll tell you his after the show.
Oh, right, okay.
I don't want to be that.
All right, I hear that.
But you know, like it can work for some. It can
try work it out.
Yeah, it can work for some people.
Yeah, but also, imagine caveating it like a bit of ITK knowledge with, I've been in a bar in New York.
Something like that. Yeah.
I've been in a bar in New York, and the guy next to me said, Guardiola's got United. So obviously that's true. Like, at least if you said, I've been in America, I've been in New York, and from what I've heard from my sources, Guardiola's got United. You think, all right, yeah, but I've been in a bar in New York and someone's told me. It sounds a little bit made up, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing with social media. You can't get away with bullshitting as much. Nah. I mean, if you delete it quickly when the rumours.
You know what? I don't mind leaving up tweets, and the only thing I delete, the only reason I delete a tweet is if I make a mistake in a tweet. And my biggest embarrassing ones are when I'm calling out someone for being thick.
And then you do.
And I've made a mistake in the tweet calling them out thick, like a spelling mistake or a grammatical error, and I have to delete it quick and do it again. Because I don't mind deleting tweets.
It's worse when it bangs all, doesn't it?
Yeah,
and you're like, oh.
What's your limit where a tweet's banged that you're not happy with, where you go, I'm not going to delete it because it's got too much traction now?
Oh, 2 likes. flying that
once
one.
that second light comes in,
it,
you're like, oh, this has gone viral.
Once my mum and my dad have seen
that's it now. Like, no, forget that. I ain't delete that. Alexei, before we move on to Erik tonight, we'll get your take on the Jadon Sancho situation.
Just sums everything up, doesn't it? We tried to get this man for 2 years, constantly trying to do that, throwing money at it, pursuing him, putting every other position in the team on hold so we could get him, only for him to come to be rubbish, and we can't even sell him, so we're loaning him back to where we got him from in the first place. It's just,
You know what? That's a good point, that, you know. Like, I almost forgot that we're actually loaning him back to the club we spent 73 million quid to buy him from. That is such like Paul Pogba.
And I imagine
to Juve.
Well, it's exactly like Paul Pogba. If you look at how he's gone from, although it's a different Manchester club, he left Man City. A lot of City fans weren't happy when Sancho left City, gone to Dortmund, and then come back to Manchester, and then done exactly the same sort of situation.
It is mad. And knowing us, we'll probably end up selling him to Dortmund for about 30 mil.
And we'll pay his wages for the rest of the year now, won't we?
I bet we'll have to.
Dortmund don't like spending no money. Fair play to them during that deal.
They won't be paying his full wage. No. We'll have to pay some of it at least. Now, it's a good deal for Dortmund. Other people in the chat, Santa Notch says the US version of a bloke down the pub told me. Jay's Pag says, afternoon Jay, afternoon Dave, love you loads, almost equally. NC says Scotty and Motty. Casey says just realised Rooney is only 38. We should sign him on a regular term contract. Yeah, what do you make of Wayne Rooney getting the sack at Birmingham? It was a weird one, that, wasn't it?
He must be gutted though, because he's come from America, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's at DC United, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I don't want to slag off Birmingham, but I'd rather live in Washington.
I don't think that's necessarily
to make that move.
A huge criticism of Birmingham.
I don't know. He seems to have all the want, Wayne Rooney, to move into management, but I just don't think he's got it.
He did all right at Derby, didn't he? On a shoestring.
He had
that points deduction, and he had. I remember, he had next to no money, and he was basically, I think at one point, he was even paying wages himself, and then they had no transfers they weren't allowed to make any cash signings, and he cobbled together his team. Then they lost some in January when I think Phil Jagielka left and a few others because he went and got a deal elsewhere, and he had Ravel and a couple of others who were sort of the forgotten wonder kids playing. Did okay, couldn't keep him up, but kept him up one season, couldn't keep him up the next season after the points deduction. Went to DC. The reason that this was a strange move wasn't even Birmingham getting in Wayne Rooney. It was the fact that they replaced, was it Eustace, the manager, who was doing really well. I think they had him at 6, and they replaced him with Rooney at a time when, why are you replacing a successful manager? Because Birmingham got the biggest budget. It's not like I know they've got American backers, but it's not like they should have been top of the table. You're like, what do you mean we're only 6th or whatever? And then they replaced him with Rooney, and I think he's won 2 out of 2 out of 15?
Yeah.
I mean, that stinks, doesn't it?
It's almost like Ten Hag.
We'll get onto that. Nice little segue there. I can see where this is going with your opinion, my friend. Erik Ten Hag, there's always pressure when you're Manchester United manager, but there's definitely more pressure if you keep losing football matches and you've lost 14 by the end of the calendar year or whatever it is. By the end of the season, not the end of the season, by the end of December. Had some pretty woeful results. The Villa game looked like you might think, okay, that could be something. And then what happens, what we've done all season, you follow it with a defeat. Every time we've had a positive result this season, we seem to follow it with a defeat. I know there was that sort of purple patch, if you can call it that, in November, where he won manager of the month. But even that, we had some stinking results in the Champions League. So just not happened for him this season, not got going, whatever reason. We're miles off the pace. New part owner comes in who's in charge of the football department. Dave Brailsford's roaming around Carrington like a lunatic. Is Erik Ten Hag a dead man walking?
I think so, but I think it's going to be a 6-month walk to the Dole office or the gallows or whatever. I just think that if we sack him now, who are we replacing him with? Is it McLaren that's going to step in? Is it going to be Big Sam to save the season? Do you know what I mean? We don't know who's going to come in and replace him. There are managers out there that are available. I know a lot of people have been talking about Graham Potter. You could even do a Solskjaer if they were going to, get him in on an interim basis and see how he does until the end of the season. But I just don't think anyone out there at the moment that I would say get him in now. And if you're, but the other thing is, I imagine Ratcliffe is known that this deal's been happening for the last sort of year at least. Not over the line, but he knew that he will have been looking at how we're doing. And I know he's not a massive fan of Bruno Fernandes. You see that sort of the quotes of.
Yeah, I think.
Has that been blown out of proportion?
I'm always a little bit wary when people make quotes about players or managers or whatever that at the time aren't connected to them or aren't, their employee or their manager or whatever. We've had it before, haven't we, where, was it Ralph Radnick had said something about Luke Shaw once when he was punditing.
Right, okay,
and it was like 5 years ago he'd said it, and then you're like, okay, but it's different if you're his manager. I don't think you can bring that necessarily attitude towards him. So I get your point, but yeah, I just think it might be one of those where he said it and it's like an off the cuff remark. I don't know.
Yeah, I just don't think there's enough ahead of Ten Hag now to try and save his job. I don't think we'll get top 4. I even think that an FA Cup, if he lifts the FA Cup, it isn't enough this season.
Is there a path?
No, I don't think it can.
What if
there is no redemption?
Nothing.
I don't think so. No, and the reason being, and everyone can give me all these sort of. I lost so many followers at the weekend.
What did you do? I don't follow you. I do follow you.
Following the Forest game. So just saying, if Anthony is the answer, what is the question? If Ten Hag is and carried on, and then people were messing around like, you've become really pessimistic. Yeah, that's what I was like unbearingly. So I'm like, how long have you been following me?
Have you met him before?
So yeah,
I know you since Tony Blair was Prime Minister. I don't think I've known you ever to not be pessimistic.
And if that was the time to be optimistic, when things were getting better.
I'd worry about if he was going out and tell you what, this is a great sign, stick with it, we're going to be all right, I'd be worried.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. I do. Like, it is frustrating and the signs aren't great. And I do think he'll get to the end of the season. And I'm 50-50 on whether he'll survive that, I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure whether he will or not. I certainly don't think getting rid of him now is the answer. I think you need to take stock at the end of the season and see what's happening. I think if he gets top 4, he'll survive.
You really do, yeah?
I do. I think they'll go, look, you had a stinker. Because don't forget as well, if we get top 4, that means the second half of the season's been very good.
Comparatively.
But yeah, because he's got to go on a run now to get top 4. We're miles off the pace. So if he's like on an upward trajectory, they might go, okay, let's give you an opportunity to work under this regime because he's been working under Glazers since he come in. Yeah. Let's give you the chance to work with Brailsford, to work with Jean-Claude Blanc and is it Paul Mitchell or whoever it is. So
there's just a lot. There's just so much riding.
There's an opportunity there.
There's an opportunity maybe, but there's so much riding on when the players come back that he's sort of banking on. And he said it himself, didn't he? Like he sort of used injuries as an excuse as to us not playing. And he said, how much do you buy into that? We were overperforming last year and we're underperforming this year.
Everyone's jumped on board that with that overperforming thing. And I don't know, I think
is a Carabao Cup win lifting it? I mean. Is that overachieving?
You still look at that team and you had Varane, Martinez, Casemiro, Marcus overperformed with his 30 goals. I don't think we'll see that again from him. And I hope I'm wrong because I love Marcus Rashford, but certainly we're not going to see it. We're not going to see it this season, are we? I'd settle for a third of that this season. So yeah, there might have been an element. I still feel like the amount of money we spent, some of the players we had, winning that Carabao Cup, especially with that run we had. Let's not pretend we knocked out City and Liverpool.
No, it's like Villa, Charlton.
I can't remember.
Newcastle,
Forest.
Yeah.
Newcastle, like they were winnable games. And I've said to you all the time, my issue with Ten Hag is, I quite like Ten Hag, and I think he's having a stinker. I'm not deluded, but he doesn't beat teams, or he doesn't win games he's not expected to win. I've yet to see us get a surprise result.
Yeah.
Every win we've had, and people go, well, Jay, we beat Barcelona, we beat City, we beat Arsenal, we beat the Scousers last season. We did at Old Trafford, and I expect us to win every game at Old Trafford. Call me naive, but I do. We should be winning all our home games. We're not Altrincham. We're a massive club with one of the biggest stadiums in the world, packed every week. We should be winning all our home games. So I didn't buy into the idea that we won games we shouldn't. We didn't. And every game we should have won, or we shouldn't have won, sorry, for a lot of them we got battered.
Yeah. It was a leverage.
Who's the favourite going into the Brentford game? Touch and go, they batter us. Yeah. City, they batter us. The Scousers, enough said. Even like Newcastle away, the scoreline flattered us, to be honest. It could have been a lot worse. So I just feel that he's got to do something quite dramatic in this last 5 months of the season.
Yeah, I just think had this ownership saga not continued as much as it had, I think it would have been gone. If this was just pure under the Glazers' ownership and we weren't trying to get Ratcliffe in November, if you look at what's happened with the previous managers, I think he'd have been well gone by now. And for me, there isn't enough evidence from what the team is doing on the pitch, and I'm talking about both seasons now, performance-wise, identity, to say that he's the one. He's the man who's going to take us forward and bring us into this new dawn that I've been waiting for fucking 10 years or whatever it is. I just can't see it at all. We had a handful of great performances over his tenure.
Yeah, I mean...
Barcelona, Spurs,
City. I think City, going behind against City and winning that game.
Yeah, 3.
And also, like... It's difficult because when you win a game, it's like if you beat Liverpool, it's hard not to, I know the performance wasn't amazing, but that was a big moment that night after losing those first 2 games.
Yeah.
To beat the Scousers at home. Also, the Arsenal game wasn't a great performance, but it was a win, an important win as well.
These big wins, but what I'm looking at is the performances. Because Solskjaer had great wins, because there was a lot of, under Solskjaer's time, there was a lot of last-minute winners, which, you know, that they're the ones that you sort of come away with, like the Cavani's and stuff like that. You're like, yes, you know, and that really lifts you. And he's had a few of them this season. You know, if you look at the Villa game, it's like that, you know, you get that injection of belief again, and they go away to
Brentford
Forest.
For me was the one. I thought when we got those 2 goals
with
in
Scott
injury time,
McTominay, and I think Scott McTominay's freaking Zidane.
I know, mate. Don't get me started on that. That's going to be the thing that I think could end up being one of the final.
But there's a lot of nails in his coffin. That's the thing. It's like there isn't one issue.
Yeah, I know. No, I know what you mean. I know that, like the Anthony thing. I'm with you on. I don't particularly rate Anthony, and I think part of the issue is if you saw that article by Laurie Whitwell. We rated Anthony at 30 million or 35 million, I think. Now, if you'd have paid that for him, or you go, right, okay, we'll pay that for him. I'm not saying he's a better player, he's not, but it's a completely different scenario than you've paid up to 100 million for him. Do you know what I mean? Like, people don't go, oh my God, you spent 30 million on a player in
but regardless,
what do you do when you spend 75 rising to 100 million euros? I
get that, and
that's not necessarily, my point is, that's not necessarily Tenag's fault, that's bad. The club being reckless.
Yeah, right. Just throw out the transfer fee for Antony.
Yeah.
Regardless of what his value is, his performances aren't good enough, and yet you've got a manager here who is sticking with him week in, week out. Now, I'm not defending Jadon Sancho's behaviour at all, but if you're playing, you can play in that position. You played in that position in the summer, and you're seeing someone who's putting up the numbers of 1 goal assist in the whole of 2023.
I don't know. It's pathetic. Terrible.
Yeah, pathetic.
It's
anyway,
terrible.
But you've got a manager who's sticking with him. Do you know what I mean? But like, what is that indicative of?
I think, to be honest with you, a lot of that is indicative of Jadon Sancho as well. I don't think he's blameless.
But I know his timing was terrible, because that whole Anthony stuff, the legal issue with it I'm saying that. I'm saying that because I can't say it.
Yeah, I get your point. Like,
he couldn't have timed it any worse.
No. If he just kept his mouth shut or not tweeted, he'd probably been back in the team, and he could have tried to show. My issue with Sancho as well, I don't want to keep going back, is like you said, that he's a talented kid. Yeah. The question with Anthony, you saying, and I've said it, is he good enough? I don't think he is. I think Sancho could be.
Yeah.
I just don't think we've seen it consistently enough, even before this debacle. Alexei, I've not asked you your thoughts on Erik ten Hag. I know you're, massively opinionated on everything. What do you reckon about our manager? Is he going to survive?
No.
Don't sit on the fence. What do you reckon?
No. Every other manager post-Ferguson has got sacked for a lot less than what Erik ten Hag's doing right now. And I think the reason he's still here is because, one, obviously the ownership stuff has meant that he can't be sacked, really. 2, because he's the furthest one post-Ferguson, people are going, oh, well, we've had all these other ones and that hasn't worked, so we've got to persist with this guy. That's why he's still there. If he was the second manager, or the third, or even if he was Ollie, he'd be gone.
When do you think he would have gone?
Bournemouth. We lost 3-0 at home to Bournemouth.
Do you think that would have been it?
Yeah. We've lost the most games this season since 1930. Yeah, you can't. It's horrible. That's worse than all of them. And he spent 400 million. And they're undeniably all his targets. Almost to a point where it's people joke about how much they're his targets.
Even like the Mason Mount one, where you're like, okay, he's buying someone that's like from the English league, and apparently like because he
scored a free. He scored a free kick against him.
He's like, bro. Yeah. Like every single player almost. I think Casemiro might be.
It's like that game is at 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, it's like 1 degree of Erik ten Hag,
and you get a sign in.
Loads of people in the comments. DB Cooper says Altrincham FC taking some stray bullets from Jake, poor fellow. Sorry. Kyle Finney says we massively overperformed last season. KC says Edwin van der Sar admitted he had to pull our pants down over how we handled the negotiations with Anthony. That's how bad we handled that. The worst thing, NC says, the worst thing for Erik ten Hag, whether he's the right man or not, is if we get the structure right above him, sack him and hire a new manager who succeeds, it'll look like it was all his fault to the world. Heaven Soul says if we sack him, I guarantee Erik ten Hag will be back in the Champions League before United are. I think, you know what, right? I think he could get sacked now, Erik ten Hag. And I still think his stock could be relatively high.
He'd go back to Ajax. I don't think any of the big teams around Europe would get him.
No, but I think
because I think with the fingers with Manchester United now, it's become such a poison chalice
and also,
that there's an air of, all right, well, you weren't expected to do something, but you got some silverware anyway
like
from
every
him.
manager fails, don't it, United? And it's like, you could go there and go, look, I smashed it at Ajax, I got to United, I won a trophy and got them top 3.
Yeah.
And then the wheels came off because, look, you know, it always does at United. And people go, okay, yeah, you still did bits. And I don't think he'd go to like a Real Madrid or anything like that, but I reckon a decent club would come in for him. Maybe he goes back to Ajax, or, do you know what I mean, like not at the minute, because obviously they've got other, you know, like, not Leverkusen because they've got Alonso, but that kind of stature.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like someone who's like 5th or 6th in the Bundesliga or 5th or 6th in the league, and they go, this is still a good coach with the right sort of players around.
He's got a history in Germany as well, hasn't he? Didn't he play? Is that
yeah,
Munich?
Yeah, he was under. So I think he could still sort of end up with a decent job.
Do you have a name for a replacement if and when it happens? Is there anyone out there, if I could open my book and say, right, we'll get him, is there one person that you say, right, I want him?
Not really. There's not, I mean, I'd have to...
It's a punt, innit? Regardless of who we go for.
I know you've mentioned Nagelsmann in the past, haven't you? And
I think that seems like the obvious option.
There's flavours of the month. Do you remember when it was like De Zerbi for a little while? And then that came and went, didn't it? Everyone sort of gave up on that one. He lost a few games and it's like, actually, no, not him. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's always a club and a team that are doing well for a bit, but it's like, who's consistent? Like, we've been linked, like, was it Lopetegui? I mentioned him earlier.
Yeah.
Been linked with him, but I think if you look at his record, hasn't he been sacked about 4 times?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, he's had good spells. He obviously, you know, knocks us out of the Europa, didn't he, and won it. But he's had times when he's been sacked. I know, obviously, the Real Madrid and Spanish thing was a bit of a farce, but he's been sacked a few times just because of performances.
Yeah.
And it's like, is he the right man for the job? I don't know. There's no one for me. Some people say Zidane.
Yeah.
But I don't see him coming to United.
I think that if we have, which we hope we do with Ratcliffe, better structure around whichever manager's coming in, you probably have more faith having a more of an up-and-coming manager than we've gone in the past looking for sort of, you know, what I call them home-run managers. You know, like you expect Mourinho to come in and get something, or Van Gaal, that sort of pedigree. Do you know what I mean? That's what you expect. But I think if we have a better structure around the manager, then we could probably like have a little bit of a punt on someone, which I think Ten Hag might be the right manager in the wrong time, but I just think it's gone too far down the line now for him to turn it back.
Yeah, Santa Knox makes a point here. He says the recruitment staff spent 400 million, not the manager. Read that Athletic article. I quote that article all the time. That's what I was saying, you know, earlier about Anthony and other players. It's not their fault. Like we've said this
but it doesn't matter
about Harry Maguire. It's not their fault they cost a lot of money, but they cost that money. That's the problem.
Right.
We've wasted that money.
I get that, and I understand the argument that okay, it's not the player's fault that they cost that amount of money. It's not Ten Hag's fault that the player costs that amount of money. But regardless, Ten Hag identified these players as good enough for Manchester United when they evidently are, regardless of the fee.
When you say these players, because you
so look at Anthony. I'm not convinced with Onana. I know you're.
I think he deserves a chance.
He deserves a chance, but so did Massimo Taiba.
Come on, man. I know you're being To be fair, that game against Galatasaray was like the game against
I was at his debut.
Man of the match.
Liverpool,
yeah. Anfield, good lad, yeah. People forget that. All right, so Onana you're not having, Anthony you're not having. I agree with one of them, to be fair to you. Who else?
Go for it, shout them out with signings.
Malacia, 14 million euros.
Yeah.
The kid's been injured and he did a job last season. Casemiro.
I think that was a desperate buy.
I also think that's the only one I don't think was 100% his. I don't think he was like, get me Casemiro. I think that's the one where you go, the club wanted Casemiro.
The club ballsed up not getting De Jong and basically sold that all summer, and then he get Casemiro.
He wanted Rabiot, didn't he?
Yeah. Rabiot's having a great season.
To be fair, yes. So Casemiro would probably give it. Mason Mount.
I was a lot more optimistic than I should have been, I think, on Mason Mount.
Okay. Christian Eriksen.
He was a freeman, wasn't he, really?
Yeah.
And
I think he's done well, Christian Eriksen.
Yeah.
Rasmus Højlund.
75 mil, are you convinced? I think he's a young lad now. I think he's got a lot of potential there, and when particularly in the Champions League, I like his drive and his energy, and his stature.
He got that illness, whatever it was, after the Villa game.
Yeah.
That first Premier League goal, Marcus and Garnacho looked good together. You think, right, this could be something. And then the next game, it's all out the window.
Can I ask you two a question? So we're talking about Ten Hag signings.
Yeah.
So he made very clear he wanted Mount for 60 million or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And that was his first signing. What if, right, we didn't do that and we didn't get Højlund and we put 130 on Kane? Would we be in a better position? Because I'm pretty sure we would be.
Do you know what it is, though, with that? That he wanted Kane. And I think if you read that Athletic article everyone keeps going on about, we're going to have Laurie Whittle on Paddock, I think, at the end of the week to chat about it. The issue they had, the concern they had at the club was, and I agree with you, and I think that would have been probably better, but they were worried that if they went all in for Kane, and that's it, that's your budget, that's your money, you're going in, Levy could have strung them along all summer, and in the meantime, the other targets you've got are gone. You know, like we did with Fabregas.
Oh, so you mean we would?
Like we did with Fabregas.
So we wouldn't have got him anyway.
Yeah, and then we don't get him, and then you can't. You turn around and you go, okay, let's try and get someone else, and it's like last minute. So I get your point. I thought we should have gone for Kane, at least made a proper effort to get him. But that was the reasoning, apparently, according to that article, which I'd take his.
I don't even think if we got Harry Kane that we would be in much better position, to be absolutely honest. And that's not me knocking Harry Kane's ability in the Premier League. Obviously, that's a given, his goal scoring record. But I just think the lack of chances that we can create for Højlund or any of our strikers this season, I just think, well, where is it coming from?
No. Just finally, I'll ask both of you. Do you think these injuries that he's talking about, people coming back, Casemiro, Martinez is a big one for me. Do you think they're going to have much of an effect at the end of the season, including Mount, I should say?
I think they'll probably have that when you get a new manager bounce. So they'll come in and we might win 2 games on the run, maybe 3 at best. And then I just think we'll all fall to pieces. I think a lot of the players now, if you had like Japanese knotwood, where it's like a plant that sort of wraps itself around the foundation of something. Once it's sort of set in, it'll always break down the foundations. And then it seems that that's set in at Manchester United now. I just think there's a lot of players there that may not have thrown Ten Hag under the bus, but some of them will be looking at next summer going, I've got a World Cup and stuff.
Yeah.
And I just, like, they'll be there next season, won't they? What did you make, just before we go, Mourinho came out, didn't he, a few weeks ago and said that there's still players at Manchester United that he identified before he took the job that he said United won't be a success while he's there. Who do you think that is?
Well, he identified before he took the job.
Yeah, said that they're not good enough. Do you think Rashford's one of them?
I think he's criticised Rashford numerous times since he left the club, so I'd be surprised if it wasn't. I think Luke Shaw is another one he never liked, and I think Anthony Martial is another one he never liked. I think those 3 are the 3 that he had issues with. He liked McTominay, but McTominay wasn't really at the club before he got there, and he gave him that vase, didn't he? Do you remember?
Yeah.
The managerial.
I was there actually. Player of the year.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Alexei?
The thing people forget, a lot of people kind of seem to think, oh, this season started and we were suddenly terrible, we're suddenly playing badly. I remember saying this to my mate last season. We won the cup final and beat Barcelona in those 3 days, and I don't think we played well again that season. I honestly don't. We were just scraping through. Like, every win was... Actually, no, there was one game we played Chelsea and beat them 4-1. That we played really well in that.
That was like the second to last game of the season, wasn't it? I think.
But the other games, you look at it, like... I remember we played Brighton at Wembley in the semi-final. We were
should have got beat that game.
Yeah, we should have.
Probably would have saved us all a lot of angst.
Yeah.
And like other games, like we played Newcastle away, which was very bad. Obviously, we got beat 7-0 off Liverpool. Even the wins, like we played Fulham at the end and it wasn't great. We played West Ham and lost. We played Brighton and lost. To me, it feels like as well, he didn't rotate enough around that period. Do you remember that period from December to about February where we were in the FA Cup, the League Cup, the Europa League and the Premier League, and he was playing the same team every week?
Yeah.
We played Reading at home, and he played the strongest team. I don't think it's a coincidence that happened, and then our form went off a cliff, and everyone got injured. I think that's partly why he didn't rotate. And we played every game we possibly could have played, and he didn't rotate.
Sorry, going back to the original point though, when these players come back from injury, do you think it's going to... I get all what you said, by the way, but do you think it's going to have a positive effect?
It should do, yeah. I think Martinez will have a really good impact, and hopefully Casemiro does as well. But I just think... I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's too far gone now. And is Martinez going to make us score more goals? Probably not. He'll improve us defensively. He's amazing, and Casemiro might as well. But I don't see them solving our lack of a right winger, or Rashford not score. I just don't see it. But
even then, if you look at towards the end of the season, the Casemiro's going to have to be replaced next summer.
Yeah,
for
good signing that one on a 4-year deal.
Yeah, it was for him.
And for making him one of the highest paid players in Premier League history.
Varane's probably going to have to be replaced. Eriksen's probably going to have to be replaced. Anthony Martial's going to leave. I don't know going to fill that hole.
If you've checked our record with signings, whoever we buy to replace them will be mint.
Yeah, but the bar's pretty low. Ratcliffe's onto a winner though, because the bar's pretty low, really, isn't it? Like, I think we'll just be on the phone to Nice. Yeah. Who can we have over here? If you're watching out there, anyway, I'd love to know your opinion. A, do you think he'll stay or do you think he'll go? And then B, if you do think he'll go, who would you like to see him replace with?
I'm going to go into a few chats before we wrap up. Santa Knot says Japanese knotwood is a pretty good description, actually. Lee New says the invisible man could fill the hole left by Anthony Martial. Carl says, who's to say if Erik ten Hag gets sacked, Martinez won't force a move like he did at Ajax? That would be a downer for me. Josh Lewis says, a bit late, but who's the worst signing, Anthony or Sancho? Go on. Anthony. Chris M says, Anthony and Leach are to leave. If Ten Hag gets buried, I would. We're a snake club. And then there's another debate going on about Ipswich Town or something. Katie Holmes says, cheers, lads. Hope you had a fantastic new year. Jay, anytime you want to visit Dealey Plaza or the Book Depository, I've got a food song with your name on it. I will take you up on that one, bro, because I was gutted. Got right near Dealey Plaza, and we had to leave when we was in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Elm Street and all that. Yeah, the Book Depository. Thank you. Thank you, Scotty. Thank you, producer Alexei. Make sure you are hitting that like button. And if you're not done already, subscribe to the channel. We broke the 10k barrier. We want to get to 11,000 subscribers now. Your support will get there. This has been Scotty and Motty. Thanks for watching.